What's up, everybody? Welcome to week 4 of my updates on business, life, and Amazon e-commerce news. This week, I've been super encouraged by business growth. In the past 30 days, we've put in more purchase order volume than ever before. So the total spend that my company did on inventory in the past 30 days is $56,949. Obviously, we haven't sold these products yet, but we are getting this inventory in our possession over the next few weeks and gearing up for the holidays and Q4. It's crazy to think where I am today, casually dropping close to $57,000 in purchase order volume in a 30-day period. I would have never imagined this a year ago when I first started wholesale. I've been a private label seller on Amazon since 2018. And over the years, the company has sort of been meandering without specific vision and direction. Sales started to kind of stagnate and not necessarily grow. And I felt like I had to spend a lot more money on advertising to kind of keep things afloat. One of the problems with private label, and I'm not knocking private label because I still do it personally with the remaining SKUs that are continuing to be a success, but one of the issues with private label is that you constantly need to be adding more products to your catalog. And the reason why is because the competitive landscape year on year continually becomes more competitive. Not only do you have more private label sellers who are kind of competing on the same keywords and for the same products, but you also have an influx of factories wherever the products are being manufactured from, whether it's in Asia, like in China, or anywhere else. A lot of these factories are getting smarter, and they're also now selling directly on Amazon themselves, which means that they have lower prices than you. They can sort of compete with you on pricing better, and therefore, in many situations, the price for a specific niche of products becomes, in many ways, a race to the bottom. And so last year, in the meandering of my private label company, I stumbled upon the wholesale network where I began to really dig deep into wholesale. And it's crazy that from last year, June, when I began doing wholesale, to almost a little bit more than 1 year from then, how much I've grown in the space, that I'm able to place $57,000 in PO volume in just 30 days. That growth is insane. And I never would have imagined that I would have been in this position just 1 year ago. On top of that, I wouldn't have been able to even fathom the level of business that I'm doing today just 1 year ago. And I guess one of the cool things about the progress of my growth in wholesale is the continual increase upwards in profit margin for the company. When I first started doing wholesale last year, I began kind of working with the lowest hanging fruit, which in many ways is working with distributors and sometimes multiple distributors down the food chain. So the brand would sell to one distributor, distributor A would sell to distributor B would sell to distributor C, and then distributor C might sell to me. And obviously when you're so far removed from the source of goods, the margin gets squeezed each step along the way. And so when I first started doing wholesale, working with distributors down the food chain, my margins were very low. I think around 15, maybe even 12% in some situations. But now that I have like a year of experience under my belt, I'm able to cut out a lot of the fat. I'm working with brands directly. My margins are so much better and healthier than what they were a year ago. Right now, as I looked at my numbers last night, I saw that our average margin for the past 30 days has been around 18-20%, which is massive, by the way. 20% is kind of what you aim for when it comes to private label after advertising spend and everything else when it's all said and done. And the fact that I'm doing that with wholesale is pretty remarkable. And because of all this growth that I'm doing, I realized very quickly that I now need to move into a even bigger warehouse unit. I think it was my week 1 video where I sort of shared that my warehouse unit was full from literally floor to ceiling full of goods, and that I was quickly running out of space, that I had to kind of squeeze in between the pallets to even make my way into the unit. And just last week, another unit in the same building opened up. That's in the kind of square footage that I was looking for. And so I contacted the general manager and I let him know that I'm interested in the unit and he's going to reserve that unit for me when it becomes available at the end of the month. Which is actually really great timing because I do have literally 5 pallets on their way to the warehouse that I have no way of storing in my current configuration. So I've really got to figure this out ASAP. Outside of business growth and overall good, healthy margins, Some other things that I've been looking at recently is expanding on the North America Remote Fulfillment Program. The North American Remote Fulfillment Program, or NARF for short, is a program that allows you to sell across all three North American markets if you warehouse your units, your products in any of the three North American countries' FBA warehouses. So, for example, I live in the United States, and if I use Amazon FBA in the US and I sign up for the NARF program, I can sell my products in both Canada and Mexico as well. Now, I've used NARF a lot in the private label days. It's really easy to set up, and it's a really cool feature to expand your sales in additional marketplaces without any additional sort of legwork. But as I began to kind of explore arbitrage, and in the early days of wholesale, where I was just buying things from distributors, the NARF program was not suitable for those business models. What I mean by that is that oftentimes in the early days of wholesale, if you're buying from distributors or if you're doing arbitrage, a lot of the products that you purchase tend to sort of be these one-off purchases. And in that case, managing these listings in three countries as opposed to just one country, having to set up repricing in all three countries, and dealing with returns in all three countries can be a little bit of a logistical nightmare. And so in the wake of implementing more arbitrage and distributor wholesale into my business model, I ended up closing the NARF program. Now that I've eliminated doing arbitrage completely, I'm 100% away from arbitrage, and the wholesale that I do is predominantly brand direct. It makes more sense for me now to turn back on the NARF program, and so I did that in the last week, and now sales are now rolling in Canada and in Mexico. By the way, if you do end up using the NARF program, keep in mind that when Amazon sends you payments in Canadian dollars and in any foreign currency, and they're sending it to your US bank account, they are actually charging you a conversion rate fee as well. The fee comes out to roughly 2.8 to 3%. And if you want to circumvent these fees, what I do personally is that I created a Canadian bank account on Wise, and then I'm having the payouts from the Canadian marketplace go to my Canadian dollar Wise account. This way I'm able to circumvent all the extra exchange rate fees that Amazon applies to your payouts. And if you're also interested, they have a similar program in the UK and the European Union. The European Union Fulfillment Program works exactly the same way as NARF, where if you warehouse your units in the UK, you can sell them to any European Union country. And I used to do that again as well back in the private label days, where I would warehouse my products in the United Kingdom, and I could make sales in France, Spain, Germany, Norway, etc., etc. And that's actually pretty crazy to think about, that there are people in Sweden and Poland and Mexico that are holding on to my products. I don't think about that too often, but every time I do, it makes me smile. Another thing that we've been working on in my company is double checking FBA fees. So the way that FBA fees are determined are based on weight and volume of your product. Every once in a while, a warehouse worker will take one of your products in your inventory and they will put it on this device called the Cubiscan. And the Cubiscan kind of does two things. When you put your product on the Cubiscan, it weighs the product, and then there are these arms that kind of circle around your product to kind of get the dimensions of it as well. And based on the measuring of the weight and the dimensions of your product, Amazon will assess the correct FBA fee. And even though there's a fee already on your product, they will continually do this throughout the year just to make sure that the dimensions haven't changed for any products and that they're charging you the correct fee. But because of this, you'll notice every once in a while that sometimes they charge you too much of a fee. And so what we did this past week is we went through our entire catalog looking at the FBA fees and seeing what the changes were from what we had on file to what they are now. And to our surprise, there were a lot of changes that were inaccurate. Amazon was charging us maybe 25% more in FBA fees than what we had expected. And so what we did was we opened up case logs with Amazon to remeasure the product. Amazon makes it really easy to dispute this. So the best way of doing it is to click on the search bar at the top of the page and then type in remeasure ASIN. And there is an option. It's the first option that pops up. And if you click that and fill in your ASIN information, you can request Amazon to remeasure and reweigh your product. So by doing that, we were able to knock off a significant amount of FBA fees that were unnecessarily added to our products. You know, occasionally Amazon gets it wrong. A package might be smushed a little bit, which gives it a little extra length. And so it's important to keep your eyes on your FBA fees. And lastly, for my company, which is a pretty big milestone, is we officially closed one of our GS1 barcode prefixes. So when you do private label, you need to have a unique barcode for each of your products. And one of the kind of authorized dealers of these barcodes is a company called GS1. And if you're going to be selling multiple products under the same brand, you can pay for a license for a barcode prefix, meaning that all your barcodes will have the same prefix. It's just the suffix that gets changed for each additional unit. And so this GS1 subscription that we were using was the prefix for 6 different SKUs that we were selling on Amazon. And these 6 SKUs, unfortunately, are one of the products that we had to cut recently. Cutting private label products is always a difficult decision because these are products that I created from the ground up, that I got samples of from the factories, that I literally put my blood, sweat, and tears into creating. But unfortunately, the margins were getting squeezed by additional competition, and it made sense to allocate that capital into expanding the wholesale, brand direct, brand exclusive side of the company. So we went ahead and canceled that GS1 prefix subscription, which is a huge milestone and a close to a very big chapter of my private label business. All right, the last thing I want to share with you guys, as per usual, is some Amazon/e-commerce news. This week, all of it is going to be based on Amazon and the changes that they're making. So last week, I believe, I shared how Amazon is changing how seller feedback is being made. Before, when buyers wanted to leave seller feedback, they would leave a star rating and also leave a comment explaining why they left that rating. But Amazon left a message to everyone saying that they're no longer going to require buyers to leave a comment as well. They can just leave a star rating. And obviously that's going to make all of our ratings go down because without a comment next to the rating, we're unable to request Amazon remove any negative ratings that violate seller feedback guidelines. Now, there was a post on the Amazon forums by an Amazon employee to help clarify the kind of pushback that they were getting from sellers. And the Amazon employee essentially said that under this new format, when buyers leave feedback for sellers, they will be required to select a reason before they can submit any rating below 4 stars. And then he goes on to say that we'll review this reason to ensure it meets the seller feedback eligibility criteria. So for example, if a customer leaves a low rating because they are dissatisfied with a product, we will automatically omit it because it is not relevant to your performance as a seller. So it looks like they understand that seller feedback is going to drop dramatically, but they are implementing this new function as a part of it. Outside of seller feedback, Amazon also announced just yesterday that they are expanding the FBA grade and resell program to include apparel. That's a program that I use a lot. I don't sell any apparel personally, but I definitely use the grade and resell function on Amazon. And what that is part of doing business, especially in the United States, is dealing with a lot of returns. But if you enroll in the grade and resell program, Amazon employees, whoever they may be, they will receive the returned goods and they will review it, and then they will add it under a used condition on your listing so you can sell through a product that's been lightly used as very good condition or like new condition or fair condition, etc., etc. The grade and resell program has been hit and miss for me. It's been hit because it reduces the amount of returns we get back as removal orders, which I guess is nice because we save on removal order fees and having to liquidate inventory that gets returned to us. But it also is a miss in many ways because sometimes the products that go out to customers are graded incorrectly. Some employee at Amazon said that a product was like new, but when the customer received it, it was heavily damaged and the condition did not match the description. So, I mean, it's up to you if you actually want to consider using this program. I personally do because, I find it to be helpful in reducing the amount of return goods that I get through removal orders, but many people are against this program. But the point of this email was that they expanded it to apparel, so if you're doing any sort of arbitrage or you're doing any apparel wholesale, this is a program that you should definitely look into if it makes sense for your business. Secondly, Amazon has announced the dates for peak fulfillment pricing. So Amazon FBA fees actually have two tiers. The first tier is through quarters 1, 2, and 3, and the second tier is for just for predominantly Q4. Amazon fees always increase in Q4 around the holiday season. It's just another way that Amazon is squeezing additional dollars out of our pockets. But today they announced the dates of when the increase in fulfillment fees will be taking place. So based on this email, it says that the fees will kick in on October 15th and it will go through January 14th for a total of 3 months. And you can see what the fees are by looking at the screenshot right here. Feel free to pause the video if needed. You can also just Google it and it should show up as well. And finally, the last piece of news I have for you guys are the final 3 events that are happening on Amazon that are going to be taking place in Q4. So the first thing is that Amazon is having another big Prime Day deal event. They haven't announced the exact dates for that yet, but they have announced the cutoff times for sending in inventory to Amazon to qualify for this event. The cutoff time, if you are doing optimized split shipments, is September 19th. And if you are doing minimal shipment splits, the deadline is September 10th. Additionally, they released the deadlines to send in inventory that are eligible for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and for Amazon optimized split shipments, the date is October 30th, and for minimal shipment splits, the date is October 20th. So this is really important to keep track of if you want to make sure that your inventory is at Amazon FBA warehouses in time for these deals. It is important that your inventory gets shipped in by those dates. Again, Q4 is the biggest time for shoppers in the United States and in North America. You definitely don't want to miss these deadlines. Make sure that your products get into Amazon FBA warehouses by these dates. And in typical Amazon fashion, they're always looking for ways to extract more fees from sellers. So this time they're launching 4 different promotions you can pay for to advertise your products during the events that I just spoke about previously. In order of most visibility / highest cost down to lowest visibility / lowest cost, you have best deals that cost $1,000 per SKU. You have lightning deals that cost $500 per SKU. You also have Prime exclusive discounts, which will be $100 per campaign, which will be $100 per product if you're going to be running one during the Prime Big Deal event, or $245 if you're going to be running it during Black Friday / Cyber Monday. And then finally, you have coupons, and of course they're going to be charging a fee to run a coupon. Normally it's 60 cents per coupon clip, but now they're going to be charging you a flat $5 fee per coupon plus 2.5% of sales from units sold on coupons. So do with that information as you will. I personally will probably not be running any of these coupons and discounts. I have seen some sellers have success running lightning deals as well as best deal promotions. They typically say that their sales volume increases by maybe 20 to 30%, even though they have to offer a 15-20% discount. But when you do the math on the back end, it adds to additional revenue and additional profit. And so it's important for you to do the math on your own for your own products to see if that makes sense given the fees and also given the lower price you need to sell your product at to qualify for this program. All right, guys, that's all I have for you for this week. I hope you enjoyed all of my updates that I shared with you guys. If you did enjoy it, I would appreciate a like and subscribe. And hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next week.